welcome today. This is the first of our second 5-part series presented by the Qatari Institute. The first part was phenomenal. The first 5 sessions of the first part were phenomenal, and I hope many of you enjoyed them. Today, we are going to listen to Frank Picone again, creating a resilient mindset to guide you through challenging times. And I'm sure all of us will benefit, since we have all been through some challenging times these last few months and probably continue to do so. I don't know if anybody heard, and this is kind of random, but I was reading the paper this morning, and I had read that some Yankees coaches were testing positive. And today I read that the third base coach tested positive and had been vaccinated, fully vaccinated. And that, yeah, that kind of made me a little stressed again. But again, we've had some very challenging times and hope we can learn how to get through it. I'm sure we will. So I'm going to introduce Frank Picone. He is the Chief Training Officer at the Qatari Institute, and he has offered some incredible sessions. So Frank, it's all yours.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Ashley. I'm really excited to be doing this series again. I think it's good information. Thank you guys for taking time out of your schedules to be here. I will I encourage you to write questions or comments. And Ashley, if anybody has anything that you feel you want to interrupt me, that's fine too. If it's a clarification question on one of the points. So let's get going. What is resilience? Well, psychological resilience is the ability to mentally or emotionally cope with a crisis or to return to pre-crisis status quickly. In simpler terms, psychological resilience exists in people who develop psychological and behavioral capabilities that allow them to remain calm during crisis and chaos and to move on from the incident without long-term negative consequences. So we're not going to be so thrown by crisis and adversity that we're going to break down, but that we're going to be able to respond, react, and get into a better brain state, and get through the challenge. I also want to just bring out that there's some research and some literature out there on the fact that people who have experienced trauma, a lot of trauma, are very often more resilient because they've endured, adversity breeds character. Well, adversity breeds competence, and a lot of us are stronger because of what has happened to us. And that's a growth mindset way to think about it, but I think it's a true way to think about it. I love this quote. I just love it. A bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking, because her trust is not on the branch, but on its wings. Always believe in yourself. I love this kind of metaphor. I like nature metaphors because I just want to believe that I don't want to ever count on circumstances or life events not throwing me, because they're going to be very disturbing things that happen. That's part of life. There's joy, there's sorrow, there's euphoria, and there's despair. Whatever's coming at us, we want to believe in our ability to negotiate it and to get through it, and not just to survive it, but to potentially thrive from it. What I'm going to share with you today are intentions. I'm a big believer. Wayne Dyer is a big influence for me, and I did a webinar recently on the power of intention. I believe that intention, which is a mental state that represents a commitment to carrying out an action or actions in the future. Intention involves mental activities such as planning and forethought. I'm going to be suggesting 5 key intentions to keep in the forefront of your mind, so that when adversity strikes, when you're thrown for a loop, when something is happening that's rocked your world, that you can rely on keeping that and using that intention and manifesting that intention so that you can negotiate the challenge before you. I never could find out who wrote this, but I think it's really true. People can deal with anything as long as they have a plan they believe in. I remember when the pandemic began, and I remember when 9/11 happened, and I remember when a lot of terrible things happened, and the country is going through all kinds of turmoil as we are now. The question is, what's the plan? How are we going to get through this? How are we going to get through the pandemic? And for a while there, we didn't have a plan. And it didn't seem like when we did have a plan, we were implementing the plan. But once the plan begins to get implemented and people believe in its efficacy, we can negotiate any challenge. It's not believing we have that. That bird on that branch is not going to obsess about the strength of the branch, because that bird has confidence that that bird has the ability to negotiate. If the branch drops out from underneath, I still have resources to keep myself afloat. So the first intention is live in the present moment. You've heard this before if you've been into mindfulness, but it's so true. Living in the present moment, our intention creates our reality. I love this quote. If you're depressed, you're living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living in the future. And if you're at peace, you're living in the present. And Lao Tzu. And it really is true that most of our waking time, we are not in the present moment. Good examples, if you go to the doctor's office, which nowadays we're waiting in our car, but any sort of waiting, it's hard for us as human beings not to look at our phones. Could everybody mute themselves? Because I'm hearing somebody. Well, let's see here.
Back in March.
I'll make sure everyone's muted.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. It's really hard for us to, I find that I have to actually consciously sit still and do nothing and deal with the anxiety of not having my phone in my hand, or not running through the TV, or not planning or thinking. Staying in the present moment is one of the most powerful things you can do, but it's hard because our brain is programmed to go into the past and reflect on the past, and to go into the future and anticipate what's next. But we're missing those moments. A good example is I've had 4 long-term dogs in my life, and they've all, passed away. But I remember I've had 4 long-term dogs, and that would be 4 going to the vet and putting them to sleep. But I've put them to sleep hundreds of times, because whenever their lives were coming towards the end, I would continually imagine having to do that and all that went with that. If I would have stayed in the moment, I could have spent more time with my dogs. And in my last dog, I was able to really do it better and spend more time with my dog and enjoy my dog and have those moments, instead of just having my mind go to the future and imagining the trip to the vet. It's very hard for us to stay in the present, but it's a key for your stability. And remember, in the present, well, here's some examples of not living in the present with regard to the pandemic. When will this be over is my mother's comment all the time. When will this be over? So she's not living in the present. If she were living in the present, she would say, what are the current risks and recommendations for minimizing them? That's staying in the present. What can I do right now? When will this be over is wishing for the future to come faster, and it just doesn't help. Why is this happening? Again, not in the present. In the present would be, what are my options? I want things to be the way they used to be. That's living in the past. I surrender to the way things are and will do what I need to do to stay safe. I'm going to go stir crazy if I have to stay in my house much longer. That's living in the future. Living in the present, I'm experiencing some scary thoughts. I need to ground myself and take a walk or clean or do a puzzle. So my first intention that I'm recommending is try to practice staying in the present moment. I want to be clear. You can plan for the future in the present moment. you can learn from the past in the present moment. But as Eckhart Tolle says, the present moment is when all of the action happens, because the past is over and the future hasn't happened yet. In the present moment, we plan for the future. In the present moment, we reflect on the past and learn from the past. In the present moment, we experience what's happening right now, right this moment. And that is very settling. People with trauma are locked in the past. The past continues to relive itself and re-experience it over and over again. Part of when you know that you're in the recovery stage from trauma is when you can sit down, relax, and not be obsessed with thinking, when is the next bad thing going to happen? It may look as if the situation is creating the suffering, but ultimately this is not so. Your resistance is. This is my mantra about traffic. I struggle with not getting stressed out about traffic, especially when it stops dead and I don't have a rational reason for it. But I have learned to surrender to the fact that I'm in the traffic and say to myself, what are my options and what can I do now so that I can take control of the present moment power that I have. So that was intention 1. Intention 2, focus on what you can control. And this is from the AA Credo. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Wiser words I'm not sure have ever been spoken, because I truly do believe that this is a powerful tool to control what you can control and to let go of trying to control the uncontrollable. Stephen Covey, in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, introduced this concept of circles of concern versus circles of control. Circles of concern are things that are out of my control, and circle of influence is the inner white circle, what I can control. And what Stephen Covey says is, we spend most of our time thinking about, grappling with things that are outside our area of influence. And we will be such more efficient human beings and peaceful human beings if we could do that credo and say, these are the things I can control, these are the things I can't control. And so the second intention is focus on what you can control. Make a decision. Am I thinking about something out of my power? This happens often when we have a medical issue and we're waiting for a test. And the test is either going to be good news or bad news. And we obsess about it, but it's the result of the test is out of our control. And it's really important for us to remember that. So while we're waiting for the test, there's so much more we can do to get ourselves strong, to get ourselves in a proper mindset, to enjoy what our current experience is. But unfortunately, very often we choose to live in that area of lack of control. And this is an example I pulled off the internet of like with the pandemic. And this was really more, it's still valid, but it was when we were in the early stages, it was even more relevant. What I can control, well, what I can't control is if others follow rules of social distancing, the actions of others, predicting what will happen, other people's motives, how others react, how long this will last, the amount of toilet paper that there's available at the store. I got to let go of all that. I can't control any of that. I'm going to spend my time working on my attitude, not watching so much negative news, what the CDC recommendations are and how I could follow them, the degree to which I'm social distancing, my kindness and grace, limiting my social media. This is, I would encourage you when you're grappling with, if you are somebody that spends too much time on what you can't control and miss the opportunity to have the power in your life that you do have, make these circles. An inner circle, what I have the power to do about this situation. An outer circle, what I'm letting go because it's not in my power to do. And this is a great tool, knowing what you can control. The third intention, choose and energize positive and empowering thoughts. We have millions of thoughts throughout our life and thoughts that pop up into our head. And you can actually choose which ones you want to spend time on. I'm amazed at how often I choose to spend time on negative, depressing, and bum thoughts that bum me out. And we have to recognize we have the power to choose. And William James, what some consider the founder of psychology, the greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. Being super stressed out is really, it's maybe an oversimplification, but it's a choice to focus on the worst case scenarios and just see if you can eke out as much stress as possible from the situation. We can choose what thoughts, and and I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's a skill to develop. This is something that I could do a whole day on, and I love this quote from Eckhart Tolle, and it helped me tremendously. When I'm laying in bed and my thoughts are racing, and I'm saying to my thoughts, shut up, I got to go to sleep, I got to wake up in the morning, you're really bugging me. Then I thought to myself, wait a minute, if those thoughts are happening and I'm not controlling them, then who is? And this quote helped me. Rather than being your thoughts and emotions, be the awareness behind them. Become aware of the thoughts that are happening and realize that they're not you. They're just thoughts. They're just past memories and experiences coming back for a replay. And you can choose. But I'll give you a good example. Think of the difference between I'm angry and I'm feeling angry thoughts right now. One is you meld with the emotion so that there's no separation from it. You are the emotion. And another one is you're a human being experiencing this emotion. That is the beginning of having control over it, because you can choose to think to yourself, why am I experiencing this motion? What do I want to continue to focus on this, or do I want to distract myself with something else? That's the choice. But if you never separate from it and recognize they're just thoughts and experiences flowing through you, and you can choose. I want to talk a little bit about reframing, which I think is really a human gift that we really need to use, and I use it a lot. You see, we construct meanings around events that occur in our lives. Everything that happens doesn't come with a guaranteed meaning. And you might say, well, when somebody dies or if somebody has a terrible accident, that's terrible. The meaning is it's horrible. Not necessarily. There's many meanings that you can ascribe to that event. And the question is, what's the meaning that will be motivational for you? Some meanings are positive and motivating, others are negative and demotivating, but there's no meaning inherent in an event. And I learned this in mindfulness class, in mindfulness-based stress reduction. Imagine that whenever something troubling happens, there are two darts that hit you. The first dart is the factual event that occurs. Let's say you're a parent and your child disobeys your directive. That's the first dart. They disobeyed your directive. No debating it. They definitely disobeyed your directive. The second dart is the story you tell yourself that explains what the first dart means. They're defying my authority. Now, if I had you live, I would ask you this question. If your child disobeys your directive and you ascribe the meaning to that event that my kid is defying me, how does that leave you feeling? Well, if I were to answer my own question, it would leave me feeling frustrated, disrespected, a little bit miffed, a little bit challenged by my own child, and a little bit looking to win this one. I'm not going to be manipulated here. I'm not going to be overruled. Maybe there are other meanings, but let's go move on. How about your boss neglects to mention your name when thanking a team you worked on? They name everybody on your team but you when they're saying what a good job they did. What meaning does that mean? Or your partner states, I do not know how you put up with the way your boss treats you. What's the meaning in that? Well, what if you choose for your boss neglecting to mention your name? How disrespectful. How personally insulting was that? Or if your partner tells you, I don't know how you put up with the way, I don't know how you put up with the way your boss treats you. She's telling me that I'm weak. You see, the first darts are facts. The second darts are the filter through which you see the world. And in answer one, you see the world as a world where your children are defying your authority, where your boss is deliberately being disrespectful, and where your partner is calling you weak in the quote. By choosing these meanings, you're bringing yourself down and you're allowing yourself to feel stressed. So reframing is taking the factual event and choosing a second dart that is less stressful and just as valid. So if I choose, they know we're all stressed and they're deliberately being difficult and defying me, I'm going to get more stressed out. But you could have chosen, this is their way of showing how stressed they are during the pandemic. Or you could have chosen, they've been doing so good from time to time, they need to let off steam. These are both as legitimate, but they would bring you to a more peaceful place. So I'm suggesting that as we go through life, when we immediately react to something, try to rotate through that, look at the meaning you chose and ask yourself, is there another way to look at this? I have a million examples of this, but I hope you're getting what I'm saying. I remember once the secretary, the administrative assistant in my work, I said good morning and she didn't say good morning to me. For the entire day, I was thinking, what did I do? Maybe it was yesterday when I didn't say this or I asked her to do too many things. I had worked into my mind that she was so angry at me because I had chose the meaning that she deliberately did not say good morning. I finally came up to her and said, what's up, Elizabeth? What is up? Well, why? When she goes, what are you talking about? She said, I said this morning to you yesterday. You didn't say anything back. She goes, I'm sorry, I was deep in thought. My daughter's pregnant and she's waiting for a phone call and I just didn't hear you. All because my mind chose a meaning. I spent the whole day stressed out and I could have chosen a meaning. I could have said, when maybe she wasn't thinking. So instead of going through the rest of these, I'm gonna just move on. But I recommend that you think about what meanings you're ascribing to events. You might be choosing meanings that are possible, but not necessarily true. And why not choose the meaning that gets you through it? And you might say, well, Frank, you don't get to choose your meanings, but you do. You do get to choose them. I mean, choose rational, reasonable alternatives. One big example is when you're driving and you get cut off and you say that crazy person, they deliberately tried to, they're tried to kill me. You're going to get really stressed with that when you could just as easily think that person just got a phone call that their daughter was in a car accident and they're rushing to get off the exit and they weren't thinking about me and it was dangerous, but it was not malicious. That way I'm calm and I drive. I like to come up with meanings that are reasonable, but bring me to a more peaceful place. I spent so much time on this because I just think we suffer from the meanings we ascribe, and those meanings come from our past experiences in life. So initiate a habit of choosing thoughts and ideas that support feeling good and powerful and that elevate you to a higher level of consciousness. Choose better thinking. I'm going backwards. Okay. Train your mind to see the good in everything. So the next, let me see. Oh, these are more about thoughts. You need to train your mind to see the good in everything. Feed the flowers in your life. Wake up in the morning and ask yourself, what are the blessings that are happening in my life? What do I have to be grateful for? A grateful heart, a grateful spirit is such a good for your soul, good for your health. Think about the things that are good in your life, the people that you love and care about, and feed those flowers. Tell them about what you appreciate. Think about what you appreciate. Think about the gifts you have. And don't feed the weeds. don't perseverate on the bad things that are happening in life. Think about the good things. And I'm not saying to pretend the bad things aren't happening. I'm saying choose not to inhabit your brain with negative thoughts, or it's like putting junk food into your body. It doesn't bring you any nutrition. It's the legitimate food, but it has no nutrients. I want to show you this video as an example of feeding the flowers.
There's a story, usually attributed to the Native American tradition, which illuminates different ways of paying attention. An elder, talking to a child, says, "I have two wolves fighting in my heart. One wolf is fearful, vengeful, envious, resentful, and deceitful. The other wolf is compassionate, loving, generous, truthful, and peaceful." The child asks, "Which wolf will win the fight?" The elder responds, "The one I feed." That doesn't mean we try to deny or hurt or kill the angry wolf. If we did that, we'd end up in a long battle, all the while somehow making that wolf more powerful through our hostility and fear. Hating that wolf sucks the strength right out of us. Instead, we calmly pay attention to the angry wolf and let go of believing they have the answers. If we can do that, they end up lying down next to us, no longer an enemy. We help strengthen the kind and loving wolf, giving it nourishment and support so that we can follow it. That peaceful wolf can become our steady companion and show us the way through all kinds of different life experiences. Restful or chaotic, enjoyable or disappointing experiences may come and go, but we can have a guide with us through it all. This is what mindfulness can help you do. Mindfulness allows us to see our thoughts and feelings as they are beginning. It's very powerful to know what we're feeling as we're feeling it, know what we're thinking as we're thinking it. With mindfulness, we can choose what will strengthen and bring into action, and we can choose what we will gently let go of. We don't have to be at the mercy of old habits or old ways of thinking or old ways of being. We are empowered. It just takes practice.
I love that that video. I show it all the time because I really do believe that life is about, the journey is about noticing the positives, noticing the strengths, feeding the good relationships, feeding the positive things that happen in your life, having an appreciative and grateful spirit. And when bad things are happening, ascribing a meaning to them that will help you get through. So I do think it's a lot about feeding the spirit of your life will be what you feed. And if you feed negativity, there will be negativity. A perfect example of that is this quote from Wayne Dyer. If you believe it'll work out, you're going to be seeing opportunities ahead. If you believe it won't, you're going to see obstacles. The lens through which you look at the world is greatly influenced by your attitude. And if your lens is, I can never catch a break, you will notice all of the things that go wrong. If your lens is, I have a lot to be thankful for, you will be noticing and growing and feeding the positives around you. Again, it's not pretending that there's nothing bad going on. It's just not living your life based on bad things, but living your life by drawing in the positive energy that is around you. So, intention 4, practice self-care. Put your health first. I was just at the physical therapist this morning because I've got a little problem with my foot. And she was basically saying, you can't play softball this weekend. And I'm like, but I want to play softball. And she says, listen, your body is telling you it needs rest. Take care of your body. And we had this funny laugh about the fact that our brains are really important, but if the body quits on us, they're not really useful. It's really important to take not just care of your physical body, but your spiritual self, your emotional self. And I hope each of you can think of right now, what's one way you take care of yourself? Is it by having a definite ending to your day and not taking phone calls? Is it about making sure you spend time with the people you love, no matter what else is going on? Is it about eating healthy, exercising regularly, practicing meditation and breathing and progressive relaxation? Is it about reframing things to find positive meanings? Is it about loving yourself and having a more compassionate inner voice? But practice self-care. The more you care about yourself, the more you'll have to give to others. And the last intention is learn ways to reset yourself. When you do get escalated, when the cortisol is running through your body and you're really revved up, you've got to not get on the bus to bad decisions. And so we're going to talk about some of the ways to reset yourself. So think of a moment when you were really escalated. Maybe it was today, yesterday, last week, but something really triggered you. What helps you to reset yourself to a calmer, better regulated person? What helps you? And what doesn't help you reset? So I'll answer it for myself. What helps me when I'm really stressed out is breathing. I immediately say to myself, you're all tense, you're thinking evil thoughts. Usually it's I'm on the road. Or my partner says something to me that irritates me. And I immediately just try to breathe in. And when I breathe out, I let the tension in my body, my shoulders drop. I just try to calm down. And if I can calm my body down in 30 seconds, in that calming period, the urge to say or do something spiteful or vindictive or revengeful or whatever, that's not really the way I want to be in the world, goes away. And I'm very proud of myself. And I give myself an acknowledgement. You didn't respond to that. You didn't take the worst meaning you could have thought of. And what doesn't help is thinking over and over again of what happened. Just the other day, I do look at Facebook more than I should. And I saw a post from my son where he was singing the praises of my ex-wife, his mother. And that kind of bugged me. And I found myself for 20 minutes just thinking about it and thinking about it. And that doesn't help. What would help me is I just called up my son and just said, listen, this is how I kind of took that. And he said, listen, Dad, I didn't mean it that way. And, everything's cool. And it was better. A lot of times we are our own worst enemies when it comes to learning ways to reset ourselves to a calmer state. So I've shown some of this and some of the other things if you've seen the training, so I'm sorry, I'll go through it quickly, but we each go through zones of regulation. I'm just checking the time. When we're in the blue zone, we're more lethargic and foggy, not really able to concentrate. When we're in the green zone, we're happy, we're calm, we're feeling okay, we're focused, we're ready to learn. When we're in the yellow zone, we're starting to get fidgety, a little bit edgy, a little bit scared, a little bit out of control. And when we're in the red zone, we're freaking out. We're really losing it. So why do I put these zones up? Because understand the zone you're in. Scan yourself. Right now, ask yourself, what zone are you in? And match up. Right now, you're sitting and listening or standing and listening to this webinar. And if you're in the blue zone, you're maybe having trouble staying focused because you're not quite alert. If you're in the green zone, you're alert, you're oriented, you're making connections, you're finding the useful pieces and deciding how you want to use them in your life. If you're in the yellow zone, you're probably anxious about something, maybe getting back to work or thinking about what you're going to be doing later or something coming up that's stressing you out. And if you're in the red zone, you're probably already off and went somewhere and are screaming or yelling or doing something. I think it's helpful to know what zone you're in to know whether you should engage in the activity or not. For example, if you're about to have an important conversation with your child or your partner in life, and you feel yourself in the yellow or red zone, probably do something to get your body calm because that conversation is not going to go well. If we could just match up our zones to try to make sure important relationships, green zone. really important decisions at work, I need to be in the green zone. Playing a competitive sport or competing for something, yellow zone works because it gives me a little bit of an edge. About to go to sleep, blue zone's perfect because I'm not overthinking things, I'm tired. If I'm running for my life, red zone gives me a lot of energy. But if we could pay attention to the zone we're in and make sure we don't tackle tasks that are not suited to the zone, we'd be much more successful in life. I really think teaching people to regulate their emotions and make better choices is going to be life-giving. And emotional regulation is the ability to alter one's emotional state when one sees fit to do so. Are you aware of your thoughts and emotions and physical sensations? You must be to be able to modify. Do you believe you can alter your emotional state and it's in your best interest to? If you want to stay employed, you can't say whatever you want to say to your boss. If you want to stay in a healthy adult relationship with a partner, you've got to be able to watch your tongue sometimes and be sensitive to the other person. You can't just wail on each other. You've got to regulate your emotions so you could be the best version of yourself. And do you know how to? So these are some ways. Visualization is very helpful. To just close your eyes and imagine yourself in a favorite peaceful place, real or imagined. Any place you can find peaceful or relaxing is okay. And then you see and feel your surroundings, engage all your senses, hear the peaceful sounds, smell the flowers, feel the warmth, and then relax and enjoy it. I do this. I went to Hawaii 5 years ago, and I still think about the snorkeling in the beautiful blue water, the colorful fish that I saw, or all the beautiful sights that I saw, or just the ocean anytime, or the sky. Just visualizing that. Again, the goal is to calm your body down. I'll show you this 1-minute video.
Close your eyes, and we'll take a few
Try to do it.
moments to calm your mind and body. Soften your face, your neck, and shoulders. Do your best to fully let go. And turn your attention to the breath, the calming breath, the soothing breath. Take long, slow breaths, full and deep. Breathing in, I am calm. Breathing out, I'm at peace.
That helps me, and hopefully that'll help you as we wind this down. Again, breathing is powerful. From the bottom of your lungs, fill the bottom of your lungs, then add to the top as you breathe through your nose. Breathe out slowly. On your exhales, feel the tension leave from your neck, your shoulders, your chest, and just focus on the sensation of breathing. The body scan with your mind, briefly scan every muscle in your body from your toes down to your head, up to your head. And wherever you sense tension, try to loosen it up a little bit. So in summary, and then I will take whatever questions. The 5 intentions are: stay in the present moment. It's where your power is. You can plan for the future. You can reflect on the past, but don't keep going into the past, because it mostly is a recipe for depression. And don't keep rushing into the future. Try to practice doing nothing every once in a while and not have your mind say, I'm wasting time. You're being alive. Most of us are not really living in the present moment. You're going to be so much more efficient in life if you focus on the things you have the power to change and let go of the things you don't. And I'm recommending make a list of each and literally let go of the things you can't change. It's hard because we really want to mess with what we can't focus on, but it's a tremendous waste of energy and a source of great stress. The 3rd intention: choose to energize positive and empowering thoughts. Feed the flowers, not the weeds. Choose motivational meanings. Be aware that you can choose which thoughts to pay attention to and which thoughts you're not going to pay attention to. Practice self-care. Replace self-criticism with self-compassion. Stop beating yourself up for not being perfect. Stop beating yourself, and instead of saying, why did I do that stupid thing? Say, what can I learn from that? That it's really about asking the right questions. Not why is this traffic stuck, but what can I do now? And try to learn ways that when you get escalated, that you choose to reset yourself to a better state. And remember, it's all about physical interventions. So on that note, I'm gonna come out of my sharing and see if Ashley has anybody that has any questions, or if anybody wants to, can they unmute themselves or no?
They may raise their hand and then I could ask them, I could give them access.
Okay.
So we do have a couple comments and some questions. So
Sure.
Harry said, thank you, just happened to have this happen yesterday and used that thought if something was wrong and they had emergency to get to. So one of the things, one of the strategies that you were talking about earlier in your presentation, I believe he was referring to. Sherry also said, this is great. Lately, I struggle with focusing, so this helped. And then in the Q&A, I apologize, I'm not too sure how to pronounce your name, Souza. She asked, so if resilience is about having a plan, how do we remain in the present while planning? That's
a really good question, because I get confused about that too. Let me just tell you, daydreaming is a good example. Have you ever driven somewhere and you arrive at the destination and you're surprised that you're there? And it's because your mind and your body made a deal. Your mind said, listen, I'm going to worry about this relationship problem I'm having, or this money problem I'm having, or this big meeting that's coming up that I'm not ready for. And you, body, you drive. And the body drives and it stops at stop signs and lights, and it makes their turns and it puts the blinker on. It does all the things it needs to do, but you left your body to go into the past or to go into the future. That's the kind of thing that is problematic. You can, if you stay present moment and you're planning for to put together a surprise party for somebody, you can plan for what you're going to do next week. You can plan for how you're going to, but you're doing all that planning in the present moment. When you start thinking about whether to invite somebody or not, and then that person and all your bad feelings about that person come up, and you start thinking about how much they've disrespected you and why am I inviting them to this event? And now you've left the present moment and you're moving into the past. So I would just say, practice being still and quiet and not doing anything every once in a while. It's going to be really uncomfortable. I still struggle with it, but being in the present moment is where we are at one with ourselves. And if you go into the future or you go into the past in these deep details, you're not going to be making the best decisions in the present moment. And you're also missing your life. You're spending time watching old movies of it and projecting what the future might be. So yes, I said you can plan for the future in the present moment, but stay grounded in the present moment and watch. I'm not saying daydreams are a horrible thing. Sometimes I have beautiful daydreams, but I don't think I want to be walking across the street when somebody's deeply in a daydream in the car on the road, because I don't think we're at our best. We're at our best when we're in the present moment. Every time I put that calm video on, it calms me down and relaxes me. And I also notice that my shoulders are way up here when I'm doing it. I'm not in the present moment. And I just think that, I think that one of the ways to be resilient is to not get sucked into the past or get lost in the future, but to really look at the people around you, listen to the people around you, appreciate the people around you.
Great,
Anything else?
thank you, Frank. The next one from Brian. Thank you for the quotes and examples throughout your presentation. They are key as many of us live by quotes. I definitely agree, Brian. And I think what is overlooked, especially in the medical field, is the importance of the connection between our gut and brain health.
Yes.
Would you agree a missing link to compartmentalizing our feelings and emotions, or just getting really a grasp on life, is through what and how we eat? Thank you
Yeah.
again for your presentation. It was excellent.
I would completely agree with that. This is the way I look at it. And if you put non-nutritious food in your body doesn't function as well. It just doesn't function. If you put healthy, good food, when I eat salads and fruits and vegetables, I feel so much better than when I eat heavy meat or carbs, but they're very tasty. But and I also think when you put positive thoughts in your spirit, you're feeding your spirit. When you put negative thoughts into your spirit, you're poisoning your spirit. When you gossip about somebody, you're putting negative energy out into the world. And it's not, you know, I believe that in a kind of a karma kind of a situation where when you put healthy things into your body and put healthy things out into the world, you're creating an energy that just continues to come back at you. And when you do the opposite, the same energy comes back to you. So I'm philosophically aligned with that, and especially, and have a ways to go on eating healthier. But whenever I do, I benefit, and whenever I don't, I suffer. And I guess the universe, if it was paying attention, would say to me, when are you going to figure out to do more of the stuff that's good and less of the stuff that's not?
Right. Yeah, that's definitely an interesting, I'm sure that's a topic all in itself, right?
Yes.
Thinking about how that, you know, everything is connected.
I think awareness, self-awareness, if I had to add one other intention, is be aware of the life you're living, and are you living your life in accordance with a set of values and intentions? I try to live a life based on intentions, and when I'm aligned with those intentions, I'm feeling good. When I'm not aligned, I'm not. I don't beat myself up when I'm not. I just celebrate that I've recognized it and return in alignment. A lot of us don't have intentions we live our lives by. We just sometimes feel good and sometimes feel lousy. But I think awareness of your body, awareness of your intentions, awareness of your integrity with alignment with your intentions are all healthy parts of growing into the human being you were designed to be.
Right. Thank you, Frank. Next question. How do you distinguish the difference between taking time for self-care and procrastination?
Well, that's a really good question. I would just say that if it's procrastination, if there's an urgent issue, an urgent project, like I procrastinated on my term papers in grad school all the time. There's no way of getting around it. I was sleeping instead of doing my paper, but that's not self-care, because when I woke up, a responsibility that was important in my life was being avoided. I think self-care is something where you have rituals around eating, around exercise, around your spiritual self, around peace and tranquility, around healthy relationships, and you're going to make sure that you take care of your body and your spirit and your mind so that you could be the best person you can be. If you're finding that your self-care always happens when you have important things to do or responsibilities to fulfill, then it's really self-care. It's procrastination disguised as self-care. Self-care should be a practice, not an excuse.
Next question. Love the idea of the zones of regulation. Thank you for sharing. Any tips for easing perfectionist thoughts in the yellow zone?
I think that number one, be aware of the thoughts that are driving you. Like I'll give you a borderline perfectionist thought I have. I play softball. 4 to 5 games a week. Okay, I'm playing softball. I have, in the past, I had this perfectionist belief that if I got up and my team needed me to get a hit and I didn't get a hit, I was garbage. I was terrible. I had to get a hit every time if I did not come through for the team, I was worthless. So when I would strike out or I would ground out, I would literally not be able to sleep at night because I would be replaying it over and over again. That's a torturous set of standards. Who put those standards in my head? Why do I continue to live by those standards? Well, the first thing is I became aware that I had a standard that Hall of Fame baseball players didn't have. Their standard was I have to get a hit every 3 times up. So 70% of the time I can fail. And I began to say, what do I want to continue to live by that standard? And I literally had to practice changing my self-thoughts from you must get a hit every time to get up there and be prepared and do the best you can. And that's good enough. But some of us have had those perfectionist thoughts drilled into our head, but we don't have to buy it. We can examine it, explore it, and do the work of remodeling it to something that is just as reasonable a way to live. And I have been released from that by myself. So I would recommend be aware of the thought when it happens. Say, hey, perfectionist thought, I see you're trying to control me again. I'm going to go with this standard, which I think is quite reasonable. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but eventually the perfectionist thought will lose favor in your own choosing, and you'll be able to work it out. And a therapist or a good friend to be a coach and to help you with it is a really good idea, because it's tough, because a lot of those perfectionist thoughts are so ingrained in our brains that they feel natural. They feel like they belong there. Doing anything different seems weird, but we have to actually ask ourselves, do I want to continue to be subjected to a standard that I'm going to continually be beating myself up? And again, I'm not trivializing it. You might need a partner like a therapist to help you on. I think it would be, when I was doing therapy, if somebody came in and said, I have perfectionistic thoughts that are torturing my soul, I want them gone, I would say, let's get to work. I'll be your coach. And it's possible. It's, thought disorders, anxiety, they're very treatable.
Thanks, Frank. Bridget did agree with the, when we're talking about how gut health and brain health are connected. She said, I too am aligned with this. When I don't eat good, I don't feel good. And then the last question is, love the presentation. Do you find daily affirmations are helpful to stay grounded and focused? Any recommendations on crafting self-affirmations and how and when to practice them?
Wow, that's a really thoughtful question. The first thing I would say is I love affirmations because what comes out of your mouth is most powerful in your life. So I think one of my affirmations is people are doing the best they can with what they have. So, because I tend to be very judgmental. I'm judgmental. And what I've realized is I treat the world the way I treat myself. I'm so hard on myself and I'm so hard on the world. So what the affirmation that I would recommend you construct in your life is an affirmation to say, what is it that I'm doing to myself that I want to change? I would start with affirmations about being more compassionate with yourself. That doesn't mean you let yourself off the hook from any responsibility or accountability. It just means you don't beat yourself up for every mistake you make. You don't crucify yourself when you make a social gaffe. You don't perseverate on a bad thing until you've suffered 10 times more than you should have suffered for it. Building a compassionate inner voice mantras would be my first step. And I would say, I would love it if people would put into the chat, what are some of the mantras that they live by? Because I just think that your personal affirmations are an external presentation of what I want to believe, and I believe, and how I want to align my life with. putting that out in the world is a good thing. It helps you clearly see the direction you want to go in.
Thank you. And then last comment, one of the
It is
mantras.
what it is.
It is what it is.
Wait a minute. It is what is it? I think she meant it is what it is.
Yeah.
Because that's a very powerful statement. We keep trying to change what is when we need to say it is what it is. Now, what do I want to do? Because I want to change the traffic. I want it to stop. It's ridiculous. What I need to say is it's here. There's nothing I can do about it except I can make a phone call and tell somebody I'm late. I can organize my car a little bit. I can breathe and practice my breathing. That's the power I have. Instead, I want to mess with what I can't mess with. So I think that's a good one.
Absolutely. And then just the last comment, great presentation. I received a lot of information I can use immediately. Thanks so much and stay safe and healthy. So those are all the questions I have. And also, just so everyone knows, I dropped in the chat box the link to register for the next one on May 19th through Trauma Lens Rethinking Addiction. So that will be at the same time at 1 p.m. next Wednesday, May 19th.
And
So
I'll send you a PDF of this so you can send that out to everybody.
Yeah,
Great.
please.
Well, thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, everybody, for being on this. And I'm glad it was helpful for some of you.
Thank you, Frank. It was great. I was nodding so many times. It would say something and say, yes, yes. Like some of the stuff that I do, some of the stuff that I absolutely do not do that I'd love to. But it was great again, and thank you. I'm looking forward to next week. Through a Trauma Lens Rethinking Addiction. I mean, we all know that correlation, but it's going to be